Good morning, Namaste. A very warm welcome to the awareness workshop for IT Kaleidoscope Conference 2024. I am Chandrikanta Rathore from TSTSI, your host for this workshop. Before we begin, here are a few hygiene announcements. All attendees will be in listen-only mode throughout the workshop. If you have any questions for the speakers, please type them in the Q&A tab. This workshop is being recorded and will be posted on the TSTSI website within the next few days. Speakers are requested to kindly deliver your presentations within the allotted time durations. We are honored to have all the expert speakers with us today. Mr. Atul Sinha, DDGICT from NTI PRIT, Dr. Abhishek Thakur from IDRBT, and Mr. Vishnuram OV Consultant TSTSI. Thank you everyone for joining this workshop. Now I take pleasure to invite Mr. Atul Sinha, DDGICT, to provide introduction to Kaleidoscope. Mr. Atul Sinha is an ITS officer of 1990 batch. He has more than 30 years of experience in telecommunication and ICT sectors. During the last decade, he has worked in Bihar government as MD of Bihar State Electronics Development Corporation and Director Technical Education, Bihar. During COVID pandemic, he conceptualized and implemented innovative concept of COVID-19 quarantine alert system QCQAS and bulk migrant tracking system PMTS to help state government control the spread of COVID-19. He has spearheaded several government initiatives, including policy for IoT and enhancing the R&D spending of government from 7% of the GDP to 2%. He has got several international exposure in different programs, including IoT study group in Geneva and e-governance leadership program in Estonia. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Atal. Please, I'll take a few seconds to share my screen. Just a minute. Mr. Atal, can you please confirm whether my screen is visible and my voice is audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So, dear participants of this important workshop, my fellow panelists and esteemed speakers, and TSDSI officials from TSDSI, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak at this significant event on a subject that holds the key to future technological transformations and our ability to thrive in a connected global environment that is global standards. Dear participants, the criticality of global standards cannot be overstated. They are the frameworks upon which the robustness, interoperability, and fairness of our global standards and infrastructure are built. In fact, global standards ensure that the breakneck speed, the breathtaking pace of innovation remains inclusive and also accessible. They allow products and services to interoperate seamlessly across borders, and perhaps most importantly, they ensure that new technologies are reliable and trusted. If we try to take a look on the advantages that standardization process and global standards offer, I'd just like to give you a few points. For example, for innovation and R&D investment. Companies that engage in setting global standards are not just following the trends. In fact, they are creating the trends. They are, by investing in R&D, they are trying to prepare the products in advance even before the standards are set. These companies invest heavily in R&D, propelling forward not just their ambitions, but the entire ecosystem of technology and service providers that build around these new benchmarks. In a very recent example, if we take for the development of 5G standards, this has proven to be a catalyst for an unprecedented wave of new investments and innovations across the globe. 5G standard alone has redefined what is possible in terms of connectivity and opened up new frontiers in everything from mobile internet services to IoT. And you can see multi billion or say trillions dollars of industry is building up around 5G technologies, whether it is 5G core technologies, whether it is RAM technologies, or whether it is the use cases in different sectors like agriculture, health, or education, so on, and mobility, so on and so forth. If you just see, because of the global standards set for 5G, today we are seeing trillion-dollar industry across the globe alone emanating from 5G standards. The second advantage, if we can check, is market access and expansion. How standards help in market access and expansion. I'll start with an example. Standards like USB and Bluetooth, they have become household name. Very small example. The USB and Bluetooth have become household names because of becoming a global standard. By adhering to these widely accepted standards, companies gain instant access to global markets, enabling them to scale up and drive down costs. If you look at the third major advantage of global standards is efficiency gains and cost reduction. Standardization in manufacturing and service delivery has allowed companies to massively scale up their operations while driving down costs. An example, if we take from a very settled industry, and that is the shipping industry, the container shipping industry is a prime example where standardization has not just reduced costs but has revolutionized the entire trade landscape through ships, through marine. Consumer trust and brand value is another major advantage of global standards. Global standards provide a mark of trust and quality from a consumer perspective. For instance, ISO certification in quality management systems play a pivotal role in consumer decision making, enhancing brand value and driving business growth through increased customer satisfaction. Finally, the regulatory compliance and risk mitigation. You know that every country has a regulatory framework of its own, and there are quite different regulatory compliance mechanisms in every country. So, engagement in a standard setting process also provides early insights into regulatory trends and helps mitigate risks by preparing for technological and market evolutions in advance. This proactive involvement in standard development allows companies to adopt their strategies to align with upcoming regulations and technologies. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, as we look forward, the role of global standards will only grow in importance. In a world where digital transformation is at the forefront of every sector, from finance to healthcare, from manufacturing to education, standards provide the stability and reliability that enable innovation and trust. Little bit about, after discussing the importance of global standards, let me introduce the World Telecommunications Standardization Assembly event. And I'm very happy to share with you that this WTSA event is happening in India in October 2024. And well, let me introduce what WTSA is. It's a global assembly organized by ITU every 4 years to define the next period of study, and it also sets the direction and the structure for standards development, and it provides a platform for members to collaborate and make decisions. Objectives of WTSA is to prepare the ITUT's strategic plan and also decide who would be the leading the different ITUT study groups, and the leaders are also group leaders are also selected in this WTSA. Financial plans get approved and a resolution is adopted on the global standardization. If we try to look at the importance of WTSA, it is a very important forum where all which facilitates the global interoperability and connectivity, and it decisions about what topics are going to emerge in future, that is also taken in this WTSA event. It addresses emerging technologies and their integration into society, promotes inclusive and sustainable growth through ICT innovation, and it also ensures a unified approach to the development of international standards. And as dear participants, as you know, that the key topics which is moving around the globe is certainly ICT. It could be Internet of Things, cyber security, artificial intelligence and machine learning, 5G and 6G are certainly the future networks for connectivity, and environmental sustainability is of always at the core of any ITU or UN related activity. Everybody, ITU member states, sector members, and associates, they can all participate into this. It provides a unique opportunity for stakeholders to influence global standards. It enhances collaboration between government, private sector, and academia, and it also contributes to the global digital transformation agenda. And it is being organized from 14th to 24th October in New Delhi. And I really welcome all of you, all the participants, to participate in this major global event, major international event towards standardization of telecom and ICT. A few slides or the Kaleidoscope event. Uh, this is the theme of the Kaleidoscope event of 2024 is innovation and digital transformation for a sustainable world. Uh, for the participants who may be attending Kaleidoscope or ITU activities for the first time, let me tell you that Kaleidoscope is a side event along the lines of the WTSA conference being organized in Delhi, and this Kaleidoscope is a basically a paper, fundamentally a paper conference event where the papers are invited from everybody all across the globe, and the selected papers are recognized for presentation, for publication in IEEE journals, and top three papers are also selected for giving some cash awards. I'll just show you in next slides. And the theme for Kaleidoscope 2024 is innovation and digital transformation for a sustainable world. And this is going to be organized from 21st to 23rd October 2024. And the purpose is certainly the fostering collaboration for humanity's benefit. So this is basically Kaleidoscope event is a ITU's premier academic conference aimed at fostering international collaboration among universities, industries, research institutions, and to explore the implications of emerging trends in digital and sustainable transformation. The theme is harnessing technology for sustainable change, and objective is to discuss technological innovation and their implications across various frameworks and how ICT standards contribute to achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Target audience is anybody, any citizen, anybody, any person across the globe. He could be a student, a researcher, a specialist, a policymaker, an innovator, or engineer, or a socio-economic development specialist. Anybody can participate into these paper conference, and anybody can submit the proposal, the paper. Papers should follow the specific guidelines. The track, there are four tracks for this paper conference: technology, application for sustainable development, enabling technologies, and social, economic, and policy aspects. These are the various subtopics that are defined under each track. I am not going to read them. I would request the organizers of TSDSI to please share the call for papers document with all the participants, so that if they are interested in participating in any of these sub theme topic, they can prepare a paper and they can submit it online on the ITU Kaleidoscope 2024 website. So these are the different topics for track 1. For track 2 there are some 8 topics. For track 3 there are almost 12 to 13 topics. Enabling technologies, there are a number of topics. I'm certainly not going to read them through. And for track 4, that is social, economic, environmental and policy aspects for sustainable development, there are almost 10 to 12 topics. You can contribute, you can choose any of these subtopics and prepare a well researched paper and submit it to the onto the WTSA website. These submissions of full original paper should be within 8 pages, including a summary and reference using the template available on the event website. All papers will go through a double blind peer review process, and submissions must be made electronically. The link is given for more details, and I'll also request the TSDSI to please share the call for papers document with all the participants, so that they can come to know these all these subtopics that are available, and also all these process. Paper proposals will be evaluated according to content, originality, clarity, relevance to the conference theme, and in particular significance for the future standards. Uh, the 29th April is the deadline. So if we see from now, it is only a few days left. But I have a very important announcement which I would like to share for the first time on this platform. Yesterday only, I'm also a member to the committee which is holding this ITU conference, Kaleidoscope. And in the yesterday meeting, it has been almost decided to extend this deadline to for 3 weeks. That is up to 20th May. So now, dear participants of this workshop, you have full complete 1 month to prepare your paper and submit it. But it will not be extended next time. So here the deadline for the submission of proposals, within 2 3 days it will be notified. You can assume it as 20th May. So these are this one, and accepted and presented papers will be published in the conference proceedings, as well as it will also be published in the IEEE journals. And three final papers, three best papers would be selected, and they will be awarded almost 2 lakh rupees each, as judged by this will be judged by the steering and technical program committee. And in addition, young authors of up to 30 years of age presenting accepted papers will receive young authors recognition certificate. So, friends, this is the final thing. I encourage your participation and look forward to your valuable contributions for the Kaleidoscope event. And basically, this workshop is for for publicity, for popularization of the whole WTSA event, and also the I2 Kaleidoscope event. And as stakeholders in this global system, your participation in these discussions is crucial. It is not just about adopting to change, but to drive it. And by participating in this kaleidoscope, you can certainly drive the changes. It is about ensuring that we move forward. We do so together on a foundation of shared principles and objectives that support sustainable and inclusive growth. Thank you, dear participants, for your attention. Thank you very much. Thank you. Over to you, Sankanta. Sankanta, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I was on
Please.
muted.
Yeah. It is over to you.
Thank
I'm
you,
done.
sir. We now invite Mr. Vishnuram Ovi, consultant TSTSI, to give his presentation for next two sessions on paper case studies, turning your innovations into good papers. And next is there life after critical comments? Mr. Vishnu, consultant TSTSI, has hands-on experience in the field of telecom industry for more than 27 years, developing and implementing standards and holds many international granted patents. He is an active member of National Working Group 13 in India and Vice Chair of ITUT Focus Group on Autonomous Networks and co-convener of ITUT Correspondence Group on Datasets. He holds a master degree in computer science and engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. His current passion includes coordinating standards initiatives, industry bodies, open source and academia, mentoring student projects, and coordinating the ITU AI ML and 5G challenges across the globe. He also curates and moderates webinar under the ITU Machine Learning 5G webinar series and AI for Good. Mr. Vishnu was nominated as Scientific Advisory Board Associate, member of Motorola Networks, and is a senior member of IEEE. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chandrakanta. Yeah, good morning, everybody. Please, Chandrakanta, please display the slides.
Yes, sir.
So, right. So while that's happening, let's sit back. My method of presentation is slightly story oriented. So sit back and relax. We will try to finish. I will try to finish by in about 40 minutes or so. So we have another excellent presentation from Abhishek coming up. Yeah. So next slide, please. Okay. So in today's presentation, I will try to look at how we can turn certain of your innovations into good papers, as Atulji just now mentioned. There is money on the table, 6,000 Swiss francs. So we should try to get it. So these are case studies. I will try to put together some case studies for you. I will take concrete papers and look at how they are formed. What are the specific things that one needs to keep in mind while writing those papers towards a kaleidoscope. Next slide, please. So there is story time. Okay, so 5 case studies. Let's look at 5 case studies. Everybody knows the story of 3 little piggies, I believe, right? And then we will look at the story of mirror, mirror on the wall. So that I believe you all know that as well. The story of selfish giant and the children, the garden story, remember? So that one as well. There is that. And then there is this tricky question of how one can have the cake and eat it as well. That is the question of IP, right? You all have patents and you want paper as well. That doesn't go together. You can't have the cake and eat it too. But there is a trick. There is a trick that I will be disclosing today. So there is a tip on Einstein tip, what I call as Einstein tip. So these are the 5 stories that we will go through, case study stories. And also I will have some pro tips on each slide. So look out for the highlighted pro tips. Next slide, please. Okay, so the first story goes like this. There were 3 piggies who were trying to write a paper for Kaleidoscope. Okay, the piggies, the first one, I mean, you know the story, right? The first one tried to make the paper with the straws. Then the second one tried it with sticks, and the last one tried it with bricks. That's how they did it, right? In that sequence. And the wolf came along. We all know who the wolf is. I mean, the reviewers and the judges and the scorers and so on, right? So the evaluators came up and, did some evaluation, and you know the story. So the first piggy did not do this background work of foundations, right? So it's important to build up foundations. That's the moral of the story here, if you remember. So how do you build up these foundations? That's the 4-step process that I have here on the left side, which tells you that these papers come from a solid research activity that we do over a period of time. That is with pre-standard activities, the focus group activities, WTSA activities, ITUT informational documents, and TSDSI, of course, TSDSI documents. So these are pre-standard research activities that one builds the foundation based upon. How do you do this? In the remaining time, I will show that in a bit. Then there is also the question of how to build the house, right? On top of the foundation, one needs to build a house to keep the wolf out, remember. So basically, you need to derive a set of requirements. You need the supporters. You need review. You need to make sure that you bounce your ideas off other people. Peer review and your own seniors. And if everything fails, we are here. So basically, you need to do a solid review, bounce off your ideas, derive the requirements, and form a team. Form a team of people who can support you with various activities towards the paper. Now, Atulji already mentioned the deadline extension. So with that in mind, let's work backwards. It's not possible for one person to do this. So we need a form a team. My strong suggestion would be to form a team of people who will contribute towards the paper and do this along with you. Then comes the unique value. I mean, there are hundreds of papers which will come from across the world, right? You don't expect yours to be the only paper for Kaleidoscope. So in that sense, you need to make sure that whichever sustainable goal that you take for this particular Kaleidoscope, you want to stand out. You want to stand out in the eyes of the reviewer, right? That's what you want to do. That will make sure that you're selected, you're on the stage on that day of Kaleidoscope presenting your paper. So for that, you need unique value. How do you derive the unique value? You want to make sure that the fine tuning of specific use cases are there, and position based stance. You want to take a stance that okay, the idea that you're presenting is a valid problem and there are other solutions, but at the same time, mine is the best. Ours is the best. That is a unique position that you take. Comparison is important. Prior art search is important. Literature survey is important to make sure that you have a unique value. Finally, you want to also show that it's not only a paper, right? It's not just paperwork. You want to show that there are concrete results which back it up. So you want to make sure that there is a concrete set of results which may be produced from your own lab or with open source, which support your paper at the back to show that there are results associated with this paper. Next slide, please. So, right. So this is the first paper that we take as case study along with the 3 piggies. Remember, don't forget the piggies. So this is the first paper one. The workflow, the paper in this particular case, yours truly is a particular author, the last author. You can see me as the last author in this paper. But this is a collaborative paper. As I told you before, this is a collaborative paper. We published this last year, 2023. The title of the paper is there, Build Your Own Closed Loop. It is a graph-based proof of concept in closed loop for autonomous networks. That's the name of the paper. There is a bunch of authors from all around the world, and I happen to be the last one. There is a link here. I will request Chandrakanta to put the public link in the chat window. You can copy paste that and look at the paper when you get a chance. And there is a workflow which we follow. In the right side, you see the flow chart. This is a trademark secret. All right, this is how you build this particular paper. I mean, you would use similar workflow for your own paper as well. So you study closed loop use cases or whatever your domain is. You study those particular use cases. You derive design the closed loops using open source AI/ML based closed loops. You are designing that using open source, validating and optimizing it using different teams, and this requires a lot of patience, a lot of effort from various people around the world. These teams around the world burned the midnight oil to make sure that within the deadline these results are out. Finally, we collate the results and come up with this paper. So the pro tip here is that one needs to be ready to do the practical work. It's not only doing the paperwork, but at the same time, to derive the results, optimizations, fine tunings, comparisons with prior arts. These are very important, and that requires time and effort. That's why you need friends. Next slide, please. So you need a core idea. Remember the biggies, the last one had a solid foundation and had a core idea, remember. So this is the core idea for that particular paper. The core idea is that there is a framework which has been researched upon. This, what you see on the slide now, shows the core idea, the picture which depicts the autonomous networks frameworks, which has been reviewed in ITU and published as part of even our own national working groups. So this particular activity forms the core nucleus of the paper. You need a core nucleus of the paper around which you build your paraphernalia. You put in the bells and whistles, you put in the results, you take an instance and fine tune. But there is a core idea. There is a core idea which the piggy built upon the house. Remember. So that's this one. And here you have certain pieces. There are certain rectangles which shows the subsystems of this framework. There are certain interfaces which are called out, which shows the reference points between them. Whatever that is, this is a domain specific, paper specific core idea that one needs to build your paper based upon. You may not build the entire system. There is no time to build the entire system for the paper, but at the same time one can take a specific subsystem, simulate the rest, and put in the results based on open source and build the paper to show that it is feasible, this framework is feasible, and our idea is feasible based on this core principle. So the pro tip here is that have your core idea in place, and then it could be a product. It need not be an ITU specification. It could be a product. It could be an existing use case. Give it an innovative twist, right? Because you want an original idea. You want an original publication. So you want to give it an innovative twist to show that this is a new variation to an existing product or an idea or a paper or a specification, whatever that may be. Next slide, please. All right. This slide shows the background activity. I mean, it's not that we woke up one day, came up with a framework, and wrote a paper on it. It does not work like that. The third piggy actually had the bricks. Where did the bricks come from? I mean, you need to build the bricks first, right? So to lay the foundation and to build the bricks, that's where we come in. I mean, in 2022, remember the paper case study that I'm doing now is on 2023. So 1 year back, we have done this preparatory work where we ran this program along with IIT Delhi, TSDSI, and India EU ICT Standardization Foundation to basically call upon some teams, give them some support from our side and mentoring from our side, build an open source software based solution, a lab based solution, create some reports and presentations that forms the basis of it. And finally, we also had entries from this various entries from this particular activity project, which came out as submissions to this ITU challenge as well. There is a hackathon challenge as well. the Build-a-thon challenge as well. So there are various byproducts that one typically overlooks because one is so focused upon the paper and editing of the paper that one overlooks this kind of background activity. My suggestion here, the pro tip would be that to hold hands, hold my hand. So hold hands, and this shows the background activity, the importance of the background activity, which is done with a lot of time and effort from our side to support you in the paper activity. That one of the products is the paper. Other byproducts exist in terms of certificates, submissions to hackathons, engagements in such activities, and so on. Next slide, please. So people talk about standards-driven research. So I would like to talk about standards-driven papers because now we are in Kaleidoscope, Kaleidoscope session, right? So let's look at standards-driven papers. How does one tie up these different aspects that the particular researcher goes through for building up a paper? When she has to look at the standards, she has to look at IPR, she has to look at code, and then there is this data, whole thing about data and test beds to worry about. So how does that happen? So once you pick a topic for research, right? So you pick a topic for research. There could be a bunch of topics that Atulji just now showed on the various themes of this particular kaleidoscope that is happening this time. So based on that, you may pick a topic of publishing, which is aligned with your research area or your product area, whatever that may be. You pick up the topic of publishing. Okay, so that's what you pick up. Then you do the literature survey and you include standards and other papers in this reading list. Typically, one looks at archive. Everybody looks at archive, Google, that's true, that's fine. But you also include standards in your reading list and then do the prior art search with gaps, study of gaps, use cases, and standard essential patterns. So you look at all aspects of the innovation, cover your backside with all this literature survey and prior art search that one needs to do to build a solid foundation. And then comes the question of where do I get results from? So I get several calls, several questions with potential authors who ask me, are there results? How do I produce results? And there are comments, which actually towards the end, I also talk about comments, right? So how do I handle this particular comment that your paper does not have any results? So that's where one needs to look at open source tools and look at what kind of tools exist, what data exists in the open source, what open data exists, and how we can derive results aligned with your paper, your topic of research, and then build the paper based on those simulations or results or test beds. Open data and experimentation test setup, that is the last one. That's also fairly very important one, which looks at where you can find data in case your paper is based on AI machine learning and build this experimentation setup, validation setup, which will show the value, unique value of your paper. So my pro tip here would be to build all these aspects. You have not only the paper, not only the foundation, lay the bricks on top of it to build that house properly for the piggy. At the same time, make sure that you have standards, you have IPR, you have code, you have data and test beds built on all four corners to keep the wolf out. Next slide, please. All right. Okay, so now we go to the second case study, which is the mirror, mirror on the wall. Mirror, mirror, I mean, you know the story, right? I mean, I don't have to repeat the story. But here is the thing, right? This particular case study, this particular paper that you see here is also my own paper. I'm speaking from my own experience. It's a personal experience. And in this paper, it's about ORAN, I mean, Open Radio Access Networks, how to apply the concept of open radio access networks along with the design specifications and optimizations. That's the whole core idea of this paper. Remember, you need to have one core idea to build the paper based on. So when we were brainstorming this, I was brainstorming this initially in 2020, yeah, early 2022, when we were brainstorming this idea with my co-authors, and it was my strong suspicion that okay, ORAN exists. There are already implementations of ORAN in open source. There are management platforms, there are cloud platforms. There is nothing new in this that we are trying to look at. It's a silly idea, but through the series of discussions, it came about that it was very clear, very evident that that judging, what I understood was that it's not a very nice idea to judge your own idea. It's a really, really bad idea to judge your own idea. Don't dismiss yourself thinking that this is a silly idea. It's all in there in the world. I mean, Google knows everything, so I don't need to write the paper. This is a bad idea. You should not judge your own idea. There are experts there are experts for that. You leave that task of judging to the judges. All right. So you submit, your job is to submit the area. So please write up the paper and submit the area. Leave the task of judging to the judges, to the experts, right? So don't look at the mirror. Don't ask any questions to the magic mirror. It's definitely going to fool you. And your job, your task is to bounce off this idea, your core idea, with the co-inventors, co-authors, write up the paper with the solid foundations that I talked about. So in this particular case, that's what we did. We fashioned it as a position paper. Can I request Chandrakanta, please put the public link in the chat. The position paper, yeah, thank you very much. So the position paper, we fashioned it as a position paper, and we did refer to ORAN implementations. We did mention that the problem is that currently it is not platform portable to bring innovative solutions to commercialize the applications on top of ORAN platform. So the concept of whole life cycle onwards, from describing, verifying, testing, and deploying. This is what we took upon as an autonomous framework. That's what you can see in this published paper in 2023 May. I'm very happy to say that I contributed whatever that little bit that is. Next slide, please. So let's look at what did we clearly differentiate, right? Typically when people start with writing papers, they ask me, where is the template? That was the first question. Where is the template? This is a bad question. Don't ask me where is the template, because template is not what matters. The content is what matters. You're going to get stuck with content, not with the template. Template is already published. I mean, it's already there in the call for papers, and you can click and open it. It's no big deal. But the content is not published. You need to make it, and that's tough. And that's where writer's block come in. There's a thing called writer's block, you know. So to overcome this writer's block, typically my trademark secret is that, and my wife hates this, is that I first make a rough drawing, a very rough drawing, and what you see here is the final output, right? But one make a rough drawing, and my particular secret is kitchen paper towels. I don't know why. Okay, I'm not sure why, but it makes perfect sense to look at rough drawings first and make your handwritten drawings first. Stay away from your PC, stay away from your devices, think about what you are going to write and draw it first. So in this particular case, we took this existing drawing, that is the Oran architecture, that is a very simplified picture that you see on the left side, towards this the concept, the core idea that I mentioned, that is mentioned on the right side. So that's how you transition from what is existing, how to link what is existing with clear mappings towards your idea. This is what the evaluators, this is what the reviewers are going to look for. Next slide, please. And right, so next one is about selfish giants. Selfish giants wants the 6,000 Swiss francs for themselves. So basically, so that's bad idea, okay? Because it's just one brain that's working on it, and it's just one person working on it. It's a huge effort to to pull up the entire paper by themselves. Is really bad idea. So one needs to have collaborators. One needs to have variable skill sets. I mean, different skill sets in the team. This particular paper that is using network simulators for machine learning assisted 5G, 6G networks. This we published, we were about to publish, but at the same time, I realized that we don't have results and we don't have the test beds. So then what we did is to talk to one of our colleagues who has expertise in simulators, explain to him the idea. That's where the selfish giant comes in, right? So if I hold the idea for myself, then it becomes very difficult for me to now, you know, train myself, ramp myself upon this simulator, simulate the case, and then produce results. By the time I would have lost all my enthusiasm, all my energy, all my time, deadline would have passed. So the trick here is to find partners who can collaborate with you, especially for simulators, test beds, and look at how to build this paper together with complementary skills. You need people with complementary skills. Selfish giants do not make good papers. Next slide, please. Okay, so the core idea behind this particular paper was that ITU has published a recommendation Y.3172. That is an architecture for framework for machine learning networks that explains all the main boxes that you see here. I mean, sandbox, management subsystem, all that is explained, but not in this fashion, not in terms of extending that idea, take that generic framework, apply it to this particular problem of simulating in a 5G and 6G networks. That's the tweak, that is the extension of the core idea that one builds up this paper based upon. And if you see the original recommendation versus this extension, there is a mapping. The high level principles are mapped, but at the same time, instantiation of that particular idea to prove that the framework is feasible, practical, is what we are showing in this particular paper with the simulation results. So the pro tip here would be extending the core idea to new applications, that is Wi-Fi based or 5G, 6G case based. What are the new scenarios, that what new applications that one can extend the core idea? That's an art by itself. So my suggestion here would be to look at possible ways in which you can extend the core idea. Next slide, please. All right. Slide not changed yet. Okay. So, okay. So this particular slide shows the different teams which came together to build the paper, and the the sequence diagram which is here, the sequence diagram, and the each role played by each team in building this sequence diagram itself. So look at the sequence diagram. It's a few arrows here and there, but at the same time, the number of teams which has come together, it's 6 teams which has come together to build this sequence diagram and to demonstrate this using open source tool sets. That's a phenomenal amount of work. I mean, just the integration is phenomenal amount of work. This is what we did in 2021 so that we can publish the paper in 2022. So that kind of integration, collaboration pushes the work forward, makes it faster, pushes the work forward. So the pro tip here would be to look for shared test beds and show clear architecture and advantage in specific terms in integrating AI machine learning models. If at all your paper is based on AI machine learning, please look at how you can show clear advantage. I have seen several use case submissions, several paper submissions which says this plus AI, that plus AI. But at the same time, to show that practically how AI and machine learning is integrated in the use case along with a clear architecture, showing the benefits in terms of numbers, either simulated or otherwise, is very difficult, and that's what the evaluators look for. Next slide, please. Okay. So So let me start with the core idea here. I mean, the pro tip here. The pro tip here is that the pre-standard collaborators typically, I mean, either it be in TSDSI or somewhere else, right? Your pre-standard collaborators are potential paper co-authors. So if you are working with somebody, if your NIP is supported by somebody, or if your contribution is supported by somebody, that's your chance. So you look at potential collaborators as paper co-authors. What you see here is a bunch of contributions. When these contributions come in, they build up the team participations. They lead us towards submissions, and that looks at from there we look at selection of relevant solutions and paper structuring and editing based on that. So don't write off the pre-standard collaborators or the pre-standard effort itself. That forms the basis of paper co-authoring. Next slide, please. Okay, so another question which I always get is how to have the cake and eat it also, right? That's the question about IPR. I mean, several colleagues tell me that there is IPR, I have been filed. Can I write a paper? My boss told me not to write the paper, or my advisor told me not to write the paper because, you know, the patent is not filed. There is a point. I mean, if you look at the pro tip here, packaging your IP is a difficult task, and you have to file your provisional before you publish the paper. You know, as I see here, there is a Miranda warning. You have the right to remain silent. Don't say anything till you file your patent. So typically there are two ways that one looks at. One is, you know, look at what are the cluster of ideas that one is relatively cluster of ideas which looks at relatively related to this particular idea. There is the bunch of patterns here. These are all my patterns. I mean, these are granted for me. Okay, so there is no problem. These patterns are granted, and now once it's not filed, it's granted. So these patterns are form a cluster of core ideas. The core idea is towards mobility management in 5G. So if you look at the mobility management in 5G, now I can package these patterns in the form of papers wherever I want, right? The claims which are here, which are public claims, these are not secret. They are granted for me, and that is the claims that you are seeing here, public. You can Google, it's available in the public. So the claims show what I can write in the paper, and if I package it correctly, and then that's advantages for me. I mean, it's this, the table turns completely 180 degrees. The table turns from a point of disadvantage, it comes towards complete point of advantage. So that's the way you turn the tables upon IP, have the cake and eat it too. Next slide, please. All right, so that's the famous man. So I mean, he's credited with saying that if a cluttered desk is a sign of cluttered mind, then what is empty desk stands for? I mean, no paper. All right. So empty desk, no paper, no kaleidoscope. So basically, what you need is a clutter. A clutter of what? A clutter of not garbage, but core ideas. That's what you see on this flower picture on the left side. There is a clutter of core ideas. These clutter of core ideas backed with essential patterns, they form an industry body participation, backbone of industry body participation, backbone of open source contributions, backbone of SBO contributions, academic papers, and local tuned optimized products. So this is the clutter of core ideas that one needs to have in place to really build upon this to form a paper. So the pro tip here is the standards and IPR and paper forms strawberry ice cream, whereas, you know, if you just write the paper, that's plain vanilla. All right. Next slide, please. Okay, so now I am switching gears. I will take 5 extra minutes to quickly run you through, is there life after critical comments? I mean, this is something which is very important in my opinion, because of a particular aspect. Okay, I will come to that in a bit. Let's look at this. You submit a paper, a reasonably good paper. I mean, you went through all the process. You really put in a lot of effort, and you're getting a letter, a love, love letter from a reviewer who says that, you know, your paper is, you know, so and so. There are significant revisions to be done. You know what I mean? Significant revisions. You have burned your midnight oil here, boss, and now you want significant revisions. So at that point is when you're close to giving up. Okay, I don't want the 6,000. You keep it. I mean, that's close where you are. So this is very important to look at, is there life after critical comments? Next slide, please. Okay, so let me bust 3 myths. Okay, the judges are very bad people and they eat authors for breakfast, you know, non-veg. And the myth 2 is that GPT will save me. I mean, I will use GPT, I will crack it, and it will save me. And third myth is where you give up. So basically, oh, come on, it's just 6,000. You keep it types. Okay. So next slide, please. So the myth 1, the judges are really, really bad people. That's not true. Yours truly is one among them. I have reviewed papers. I have selected, I have rejected, I have looked at reworked papers. I have given comments, I have taken comments, you know, my fingers are all burned, you see. So then there are some things that judge and reviewers look for. The first one is that your paper should be complete. You should have all the usual stuff, but also you should describe what is the problem, what is a specific problem that you are trying to address, what are the existing solutions, what are the comparisons with prior arts, what is the proposed solution, and what is the future work that you would do on this space. This if you address this, your paper is complete. If you don't address this, you're going to get comments on it. That's what is going to happen. So don't blame the judges, don't blame the reviewers. This is your problem. You have to fix it. There are 10 simple rules that these are not my rules. These are coming from Dr. Aliyu, whose contribution number is here. So FGAN input number 283. You can look at the paper. The simple rules are that when you respond to a reviewer, be extremely respectful. You know, you know what I mean, and also provide an overview, full set of reviews. You address all of them in one shot. Don't give me 10 emails one by one addressing each comment. That's going to be problematic for me. I may actually miss some. So you address all the comments in one shot. You take your time. There will be review time frame. You use that time up fully and you write a complete set of reviews. Accept the blame. I mean, there is no problem, you know, everybody makes mistakes. If somebody says you need significant revisions, yes, I need significant revisions, all right? And make the response completely self-contained. If you want to quote something, if you want to cite something, you do that. And don't get into ego tussles with the reviewer. I mean, that's not right. You know, I am right, you're wrong. That's not the point. You want the paper, right? I mean, so if there is a simple change which the reviewer is asking you to do, just do it, man. I mean, just do it. Next slide, please. So here is a pretty much simple sample. This is again from Dr. Aliyu. I mean, we have used this template many times. I mean, if you are an academician, you do this in your sleep, right? So dear editor, blah blah blah. We are uploading point by point response, updated manuscript with changes, clean manuscript, everything attached, ironclad, bulletproof. Next slide, please. This is just a template on how to respond to the comments. I will skip through this. You can look at this offline. Next slide, please. Okay, GPT. So GPT will not save you. You can't put the comments into GPT. You can't even put your ideas into GPT. That's bad idea. Let me tell you that it's a bad idea. Human effort plus Google search, AI editing tools, that's fine. No human effort, only some high level prompt engineering, and they take the output and send it to me. That's sure shot recipe for rejection. Don't do it. How do reviewers figure it? Oh, please. I mean, everybody knows it's very simple. Just look for original content. If there is no original content, that means it's all AI. There is no human there. Okay. AI can give you only some repackaged stuff of what is already existing. So the pro tip here is use AI just like you would use your car, your bike. You know, you want to go somewhere, you use a tool, you enhance your productivity with it, but original ingenuity has to come from here. Next slide, please. All right, so this is the last one. It talks about 6,000 francs is pretty much sour grapes, right? I mean, what is there? Huh? So it's not only that, you need to take the stage during WTSA. I mean, you heard Atulji. It's a very prestigious event. It goes, I think last time we held this event, this Kaleidoscope in Geneva or some other place, it comes to your backyard. It's better that you make sense out of it. I mean, make something out of it. So that takes place during WTSA. During this particular event is a prestigious thing by itself. And have a shot at young authors certificate. I mean, if you are below 30, if present the paper, you're going to get certificate, not winning, presenting the paper. And also the best among the best, the creme de la creme is going to be there in Delhi. You want to be there on that stage, let me assure you. And get into the publishing pipeline. Don't tell me that there is no opportunities for young authors here. There is no support. That's not the case. You have an opportunity right here, and future career and research opportunities. And the pro tip is that it's not the money, okay? It's I know, like the Clinton campaign, it's not the money, it's something else. Next slide, please. All right, so TSDSI, we are here to hold hands. TSDSI is an organizational partner of ITUT Kaleidoscope. TSDSI, we run hand-holding sessions. We run mentoring sessions. I can see that some of you are here who are part of it. If you are not, there is a WhatsApp group right here. Chandrakanta, can I request you to put the WhatsApp group? Thank you very much. Please be part of it. Talk to Chandrakanta. She will make sure you are part of the ecosystem. There is contribution planning. There is network of women. If you are interested in network of women activities along with WTSA, that's being planned. TSDSI members are benefiting from this. They are actually submitting AI entries for AI for good calls, and also we are supporting travel through visa support, etc. So this is an opportunity to hold hands, and please reach out. We are here. You're not alone. There is still time. So please reach out to us, and we'll be very happy to support you and mentor you towards a paper. We'll be very happy to see you on the stage as well, or during Kaleidoscope in October in Delhi. See you there. Thank you very much. Back to you, Chandrakanta.
Thank you.
Chandrakanta, we can't hear.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for.
Is that me or she's going mute?
Thank you, sir. We now invite Dr. Abhishek Thakur from IDRBT to give his presentation on role of SDGs in innovation. Dr. Abhishek Thakur is an assistant professor at the Institute for Development and Research in Banking Technology, where he coordinates 5G use cases lab for BFS. His research interests include multimedia communications, financial inclusion, and rural ICT deployments. In his over 25-year career, split across industry and academia, and he has developed multiple global solutions for both product and service-based organizations. At 5G Use Cases Lab, he champions the technology horizontals for cross-domain network slicing, multi-access edge compute, and rural connectivity. Besides pursuing applied academic research in PFS, he is also advising the IT teams of multiple banks. He is passionate about making technology simple and sustainable for the masses. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you,
So
Chandrakanta.
now I
Thank you.
stop sharing and making you presenter.
Great. For people who have joined in late, just to recap, Atul sir has announced that we will get additional time. So the deadline for submission would be extended. Just a moment. Are the slides visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So quickly giving a brief about IDRBT, we are an organization out of Hyderabad, an autonomous entity established by RBI, and we work for banking technologies. And to add, whatever I am presenting here is my personal opinion and not related to the organization. So sustainable development goals, and this is something that Atul sir also mentioned in the beginning, is a area of strong focus across United Nations. And when we look at it, it also makes sense for all of us as a society to look at sustainable development. Uh, as I cover the next half an hour or so, we would be looking at what is ICT's contribution to sustainable solution across development goals. And these development goals actually cater to multiple sectors. And then briefly, we will also look at what do we mean by sustainability across the ICT platforms. In addition, we will look at the inclusive part as well, because many of the solutions that we look at, typically the participants in many of our forums are people who are digitally privileged, potentially economically and socially privileged. So inclusion for the bulk of the pyramid is one aspect that we have to look at when we are talking of SDGs in general. Purely in the ICT context, information communication technologies context, there is that economic part of uh, capex opex that we have. We would be probably putting up our own devices, our own data centers, or using cloud infrastructure and so forth. That is one strong element of economic sustainability. Then we have sustainability with respect to the threats we have in the cyber realm. Now, this is the story of internet coming into the wider society, that when we started looking at ICT, it was more of a standalone closed system, and gradually it has become worldwide and potentially going to go beyond the world as we speak with non-terrestrial networks and interplanetary networks. So attacks originating across the networks, the cyber resilience becomes a very, very strong part of sustainable ICT systems. Then environmental impact. Um, Innovation towards zero impact on environment, be it the usage of power, be it the recycling of materials we use, and so forth. Very strong elements to look at. Keep in mind this theme of Kaleidoscope is technology plus plus. So we have to be aware of policies, frameworks, business impact, and other things as we are looking at the overall sustainable development goals. Then the platform's evolution, its obsolescence and disruption. Many a times, this plays a strong element towards how things will be sustainable or not so sustainable. And then it comes to the human elements as well, be it the creators, be it the operators, or be it the end users. So the skills needed for these ICT systems, all the three roles, creators, operators, and users, may have varied skills. If we are not designing our solutions right, we may have a hindrance to include people at the bulk of the pyramid. If I'm only targeting the top 20%, which luckily or unluckily we have had this challenge in the past, we will have a big issue with including the bulk of the pyramid. And then adoption. Adoption itself has multiple facets to it. The technology adoption is one part, access to devices is another part, access to network is the third part, and then trust, security, and other aspects also come into play when we are looking at ICT systems being adopted for the wider community. I will be picking a couple of examples as we go further. But one thing that I will spend a lot of time is on digital public infrastructure. Increasingly in the last, at least from the Indian perspective, in the last 5 to 10 years, more on digital public platforms, and we are seeing the benefits of it. If I have to serve a person who is the bottom 50% of the society, the physical way of serving that person, and I'm picking an example from bank. If a customer walks into a bank branch, my cost to service a customer at branch is anywhere from maybe 100 rupees to 500 rupees. Take it to an ATM, possibly it drops to 10-15 rupees. If they're able to self-service themselves, it can drop even further. So technology is helping us get inclusion, get affordability, and get even sustainable operations in place. And DPI is not just about banking, it's much more than that. So we will look at, some of you may already be aware of it, but we'll try to bring in perspective on DPI from multiple angles. Quickly introducing the 17 sustainable development goals. Now, almost all of them, in fact, nothing is possible without ICT. But what I'm going to do is focus a bit more on industry, innovation, and infrastructure. That is more of a theme with Kaleidoscope. Also pick an example from sustainable cities. By the way, Kaleidoscopes in previous publications have gone across industries and verticals. They have talked of healthcare, they have talked of education. We have talked of green systems, affordable energy, clean water and sanitation, gender equality, reduction of inequalities. And again, examples will show that all of these are cross-linked. If we try to achieve one, we can potentially achieve 3 other sustainable development goals along with it. So sustainable cities and communities I come to in the next slide. Responsible consumption and production. This is the supply chain, especially given the COVID and post-COVID impacts, the Ukraine crop related issues, wheat not being available to most of the not so developed countries. Climate action, we are seeing multiple challenges because of our impact to the ecology. Then life below water, very important element. While things that we are doing on land are more visible to us, over time we have had pollution in the rivers to the seas and oceans. So how do we ensure the diversity on both above water and below water, on land and below water, is well taken care of? Multiple ICT solutions, right from measuring, tagging, to looking at improvements and reporting, are coming into play there. And then peace, justice, and strong institutions. Having a digital court would be a small step. Translating, especially for a country like India where we have so many variations in language, a ruling from English to the other vernacular languages and so forth becomes very important. And then finally, the partnerships for the goal. It's not just partnership across countries, it's across organizations, it's across communities. Global as a term, global things localized. All those things become important, and ICT invariably helps us create novel solutions for these. Gender equality at the top, and then looking towards reduction of extreme poverty. So the target is 2030, we should have zero extreme poverty and zero hunger are the other goals. Again, multiple ICT systems and solutions can be innovated and are being innovated across the world. Few examples we will pick up in the slides that follow. So looking at the industry itself, which is sustainable industry for innovation and infrastructure. The goal was to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Last year, when there was a review done, the impact of pandemic, the conflict in Ukraine had a significant overall bearing on the progress, and the findings have been that we have not progressed as much. In fact, you can look at here the least developed countries are missing out on the target goal. While there is a goal of going to almost doubling up to 24% manufacturing value as a share of their GDP, they have only creeped up by 2%. Very, very, very poor progress there. Again, there are multiple other metrics. Potentially, I will only highlight. In India, for example, we have a very good mobile coverage. But if you look at sub-Saharan Africa, 82% is not having access to 3G or better. They are potentially on 2G. This is the 2022 data. Similarly, Oceania region is struggling with high mobile connectivity for mobile broadband connectivity. Then looking at a scenario of, and this is a image I have picked from facility management. So there was a event from United Nations targeting sustainable facility management and electro technologies around it, green energy distribution and generation. So if you're looking at managing a hospital or managing an apartment complex or managing a municipal complex or a transit station or airport, all of them are increasingly connected through, we may call it building management system, we may call it facility management system, but some ICT platform. And then on top of it, in the last few years, we have started looking at how much of the energy is coming from green sources and how much of it is coming from fossil fuels. Hospitals, another example. While we may look at building management, healthcare itself is heavily leveraging ICT and innovations around ICT. We had a discussion the other day, and one of the speakers was mentioning that probably what we have been trying through multiple goals being set by United Nations and others, COVID helped us accelerate a lot more. Telemedicine, teleconsultation is something that we have been trying as a country in India, for example, for a while. And suddenly in COVID with WhatsApp consultation and subsequently continued consultation through tools like WhatsApp, many of the doctors got auto trained and some of the resistance that were there for the patients or the beneficiaries of healthcare got reduced drastically. This is something that while we were pushing, so this is one of the positive outcomes I would say from the pandemic, that it accelerated some of the technology adoption. But are we doing it optimally? Possibly not. A teleconsultation coupled with an AI bot is potentially more desired than an ad hoc teleconsultation as we are having today. Also, when we are looking at sustainable development, there are external factors. Many of us coming from engineering and technological background stay focused on technology. Again, I would reiterate, Kaleidoscope is technology plus policy and a lot of other things. So we are welcome to have submissions beyond just the technological solutions. Obviously, political and similar mechanisms may go beyond, but surely economical, social, policy, and legal, environmental aspects are strong inputs for prior publications in Kaleidoscope. I will bring in few headlines of the papers towards the end of the talk today. Now, most of us who are participating are coming from technological background, and we may have some exposure to economic and sociological background as well as environmental background. I am picking an example of UPI, which most of us are exposed to emphasize that UPI as a technology existed before. In fact, the European Union economic area was attempting to get towards it through what they called as Payment Services Directive. Initial effort was 2007, and then they came out with PSD2 in 2015 odd to reduce the friction. So one of the study they had was to send 100 euros from one country in European Union to another country in European Union. The cost was anywhere from 2% to 5%. This is 2005-2007 timeframe. And they were trying to open up the banking systems and the platforms to bring down this cost. So they had come out with the Payment Services Directive, subsequently with PSD2. UPI started somewhere around 2015-16, slightly from a different angle. They were looking at multiple payment infrastructures and they were trying to unify them through an API approach. And suddenly with QR code, and especially the push from the government and policymakers to zero merchant discount rate. So while all the technology existed, it was this zero merchant discount rate, which was something that was, as a banking community, we still have resistance to it. If we don't get paid, how do we make money for from the infrastructure and services we are running, right? But just pushing the merchant discount rate to zero is what disrupted and made this solution so viral. A person who is selling vegetables or fruits, if they know when they're getting 20 rupees, they are getting 20 rupees in their account. It is not 19 rupees or it's not 19 rupees 50 paise. There is a big comfort factor for them. The whole mind block, even if you take away 50 paise, there is a mind block that comes into the society. But removing that friction, the adoption went so drastic. The cost of merchant device, what the end user, like point of sale devices we had before that, even if you are using a smartphone coupled with a Bluetooth card reader and so forth, was order of few thousand rupees. QR code, 20 rupees, we are getting an MDR, merchant infrastructure ready, at a very affordable manner. Obviously, we had other innovations coming in with sound boxes and similar to take the friction away of people cheating and showing screens of payment made when they had not made the payments. So it did evolve. It had its own journey, technology and user innovations. But the biggest impact was more of an economic environmental aspect, where we pushed the ecosystem to go with a zero discount rate. Now, just to complete this discussion, while it is zero discount rate, which means for the transaction, nobody is sort of making money. Internally, when the APIs are being called, the ecosystem players do have to pay each other. How will they recover their money? Where will they recover their money? Those are the things that they have to still figure out. Now, with loans on top of UPI, banks can make potentially more revenue. Similarly, a customer is maintaining higher balance with them because they're going to use money longer. So more balance in the accounts means banks can lend out more loans. So there are collateral benefits, but not exactly quantifiable. Also, UPI and similar instruments mean the load on the ATM or on their branch networks have come down. So there are indirect benefits. We have to think from that perspective to get to a holistic, sustainable solution. Okay, so then looking at other examples of digital public infrastructure, and I'm picking examples from multiple areas. Identity, obviously in India we know Aadhaar, but if you really look at it, almost 20 years back, Estonia with their electronic identity system had innovated it. They went with a smart card scenario. Later they have adapted it for SIM or mobile and similar platforms, tying into the identity. Again, different countries, different goals, and different level of security trade-offs and privacy trade-offs are happening there. Besides identity, documents, certificates, and similar things, and signature of documents, giving us a digital signature on when, say, taking a loan or agreeing to a form or filing tax returns, for example, are scenarios of digital public infrastructure benefiting us to go paperless. Digital payment systems, UPI already I have covered in the previous slide, but there are other multiple examples. Singapore has Pay Now, Brazil has a federated system on a solution called PIX. So there are multiple such solutions that have come all over the world, and potentially in the next 5 years or 10 years, we are looking at more and more interoperability between these distributed systems. Data focus and privacy focus is also leading to digital consent. In India, we have an initiative more from the financial sector called Sahmati, related to account aggregator. Now we are also looking at how can it be more broad-based. This consent mechanism, why should it be only financial? It can also be used for supply chain. It can be used for healthcare. When I am getting a medical test done, can the whole flow have a similar approach as in finance? I use a consultant to do my tax filing. Similarly, in healthcare, can one or a group of doctors help with better diagnosis based on the consent and data sharing I am doing around my medical records and prior medication history? Similar things can logically flow to other scenarios. So quickly picking health, some of the success stories, vaccination and its records, coordination of vaccines delivery and post-vaccination records. Both India and Indonesia have implemented good digital platforms and shared it as best practices. Excuse me. Similarly, in Mauritius, there have been initiatives using open source components for enterprise level laboratory information management system. Takes away uh, the delay in analyzing and reporting from the lab tests. And because these are digital public infrastructure, the initial capex to excuse me, to deploy these systems also reduces drastically. France has also created a data hub for sharing of health information, both anonymous, non-anonymous, and multiple such benefits are coming out. Then using DPI for governance, sanitation, and beyond. I'm not going into all the details. Haiti, for example, has got a platform called M-Water. Similarly, in India, the Digit aspect is looking at water and sanitation function, uh, especially to boost operational efficiency in the facial sludge management. This is one of the part where we should probably use more of machines. In India, unluckily, we are still not fully there, but gradually digital public infrastructure should help us get better automation and similar benefits as we go further. Education, many of us are aware of it. Open edX was one of the open source components almost 10 years ago, continues to be used widely. Diksha as a platform in India targeting educational material across different segments is another case in point. Bangladesh, for example, has done a civil registration and vital statistics system. And again, the best practices for such digital public infrastructure is a sort of a reference point available for others. Specifically on inclusion and women empowerment, in India, there is an ongoing initiative called Low OS, which increases women's access to credit and financial services by eliminating barriers through cash flow based underwriting and simplified KYC. So this builds upon India's stack of UPI, Aadhaar, and other things, and provides the women's self-help group a better financial railroad at a lower friction. Energy, there are initiatives like Xroad. Xroad is a bigger, wider umbrella of DPI in Estonia, builds upon the digital ID platform. Then there are multiple national carbon registries, open energy information use cases, and so forth that are showcased in this report on digital public infrastructure that came out last year. Now, I'm going to spend a little bit time to discuss not just a vertical specific scenario, but how some of the things that are happening in one vertical can be and should be designed to work in other verticals. Know your customer is a common mechanism across industries. So in financial, telecom, potentially we are using it quite well, and there are video KYC to other KYC mechanisms that are built in. Gradually, there is a need being felt that can we also have know your teacher or know your doctor and similar platforms created as repositories or as uh, discoverability mechanisms for open learning and affordable healthcare. That is one aspect of it. The other part is, can we move from know your customer scenario to protect your customer, especially when we are targeting people at the bulk of pyramid who are not digitally savvy, and more we are pushing them to be on the digital ecosystem. Holistically, we have to ensure that we are providing them adequate protection. So how do we create digital roads? And there are multiple opportunities with AI/ML, with digital twins and similar mechanisms to protect uh, those people who might potentially be easy to exploit, especially the elderly group, the digitally excluded group, or the digitally not so savvy group, and so forth. So that is one broad area of transdisciplinary innovation and sustainable development gaps and opportunities that we have. Similarly, in supply chain, while a lot of effort is going on traceability, audits, identification of risks and risk mitigation, both the pandemic, the Ukraine war, and subsequently even the Israel Gaza conflict or the Suez Canal and related issues that we are potentially looking at are showing us a risk that we are not having enough digital infrastructure to measure and mitigate. Uh, Finally, there would be goods that will be physical goods and they have to go through the physical uh, modes of transport, but having a good visibility into these platforms is another area to be explored. Now then, there is aspect of going cross vertical or trans vertical by generalizing and reusing some of the components we are building up. What started as purely a video conferencing for enterprise scenario, during the pandemic we started using them for classroom. There have been instances where doctors have used it for patient monitoring and so forth. They were more of an ad hoc scenario. Now more and more platforms are coming with classroom as a service or patient monitoring as a service. Now patient monitoring may be in a hospital environment, maybe in an ambulance environment, or maybe in a home environment. So these are some things that designed once can be adopted and modified to work at multiple locations. Now, flipping the concept a bit, today there are aspects of drone as a service, or in rural areas, people are renting tractors. Maybe they are not renting it as a service yet, but we should potentially be designing platforms that allow such Uberization of rural farm equipments and so forth. Can we move up to the abstraction to say that harvesting a crop as a service or transplanting a paddy as a service are things that we are looking at enabling through the next generation digital platforms? So this is to say, don't already the digital platform DPI framework is blurring the physical and digital world. Can we start being more inclusive of the physical needs when we integrate them into the digital platform? When I'm renting a tractor, I'm not just renting a tractor, I'm renting the driver for the tractor or operator of the tractor as well. Right? So there are multiple aspects that come into play when we are looking at sustainable innovations, especially for people at the bulk of the pyramid. And then there is the cyber security, privacy, and data protection rules that are going to be across the verticals. One of the risks that we are potentially seeing is heavy emphasis on privacy has a potential to exclude. Why am I making this claim? If you make the cost of compliance too high, we cannot have sustainable and inclusive solutions. The level of privacy that might be desired for the people who are what we call as luxury belief holders, people who are well off, versus the privacy that I would need to service. Let us say a doctor needs to service a patient in a village who is only making 300 to 500 per day. As a society, we are aware that a rural society in India, the meaning of privacy is quite different from, say, a person staying in a community with a community apartment with uh, multiple layers of security, including car parks and other things, right? So again, the paradigms of privacy and security have to be traded off in a manner that it makes it sustainable and viable for most of the people. Okay, so with this, I'm coming to a few of the papers and the themes of Kaleidoscope over the last few years. For example, Beyond the Internet, Innovation for Future Networks and Services. This is an event that happened 14 years back in India, Pune. Building Sustainable Communities, that was a theme very similar to our theme this year. Trust in the Information System, ICT for Sustainable World, Industry-Driven Digital Transformation, again a theme that happened for 2020 online event. And then obviously all of the themes are important, but transformation and sustainability themes is what I was highlighting right now. And that has been the focus of ITU and United Nations over time as well. Picking a few of the articles that mention sustainability, and I have not gone through the whole list. This is a lazy me getting the first 10, 15 hits from my search on the scholar.google. The variety is quite a lot there. You will notice that role of intelligent transportation system in developing countries. Then uh, if you look at it, sustainable security advantage in changing environment, a measurement model, capability, security, maturity model, and its benchmarking. Connecting worlds to trustable Internet of Things. 5G in rural low-income areas. Are we ready? Wi-Fi network of drones. Then looking at, say, the blue water or clean water scenarios under the sea, under the water. Mobile signal extension to deep sea towards a safe and sustainable fisheries. Clean Wi-Fi, and then small data and sustainable development, capability maturity models towards improved quality of sustainable development goal indicators. So while there is the CMM model for sustainable security advantage in changing environment, here we are talking of how we can look at SDG indicators and data that we are collecting. And then sustainability and spectrum management in 6G era. A very brief subset of articles that I have looked at. But this should give you an idea that it's quite widespread when we are just looking at sustainable technologies published articles. Now, what are the opportunities and innovations for sustainable development goal? So one thing is, if we can look at the not pure digital but physical plus digital workflows, which I have captured as phygital workflows, this really needs a mindset change. Most of us who are from the information communication technology tend to say that everything has to be 100% digital. Problem is, people at the bulk of the pyramid get excluded in those scenarios. So figure here is showing a bank Sakhi, a person who has been hired by a bank to deliver digital services, banking related digital services in a rural area, carrying a small laptop with a passbook update and other mechanisms, and providing services to rural folks who don't have a branch anywhere near their uh, uh, villages. So it's potentially they have to walk for 5 to 7 kilometers or few kilometers plus a bus or similar service to get to a bank station. In contrast, bank sakhi or a business correspondent is the term that the industry uses, can visit maybe on a weekly basis, maybe on a daily basis, depends on the amount of uh, demand that is there in the geography, and offer these services. Now you will notice this is a step down from a classical branch and a step up from a person who can use a cell phone to do their own banking. The end user group does not have smartphones. Even if they have smartphones, they are potentially smartphones that came out 6 years back or 8 years back, handed down to them after primary user has used it quite well. So they don't have the latest patches or security. They lack network coverage. So all those challenges get reduced through a shared device given to the business correspondent. So that is sort of looking at digital workflow and mindset change when we are designing solutions to service people at the bulk of the pyramid. Now, increasingly AI and distributed ledgers, and I'm not talking of crypto here because cryptocurrencies are generally not green. They have higher economical footprint, ecological footprint than what potentially even our paper currencies have. So distributed ledgers, AI, smart contracts, and other emergent opportunities create a lot of ground for innovation, especially in context of the sustainable development goals. The third aspect where, at least personally, I see a lot of opportunity is when we are designing our systems, if we can include the impact measurement and sustainability goals, the measurement of sustainability as part of our system design. It helps us When we go live, we can try to get cross subsidy, we can try to get corporate social responsibility funding and similar things, because there is better visibility to the end user. When they are giving money, this is the impact you are creating. Or when the government is spending, they can be assured that there is no leakage. So designing with impact measurement of sustainability, which goes beyond just the measurement of our digital infrastructure, includes measurement in the physical or societal realm, it becomes very important. And then when we are designing it, we have to make sure that we are looking at transdisciplinary usage and its impacts. Now, this is one gap that is continuing to be there. A model of business correspondent, or for that matter in healthcare of Anganwadi. So there are ASHA workers. Somehow we have not been able to get into a transdisciplinary approach wherein we can say that a single solution, potentially slightly more complex solution, can help me in education, can help me in healthcare, can help me in banking and finance. Only when we start creating transdisciplinary solution and share it across industries, we can minimize the carbon footprint, maximize the return on investment, and make it truly sustainable. Now, again, if we reflect and look at how our villages even today they operate, they are highly sustainable in the sense they create very little carbon footprint. They tend to recycle more. Obviously, plastic and other things have impacted them a bit, but what I have especially noticed visiting, say, rural parts of interior parts of Telangana, bordering Maharashtra and Orissa, these communities are actually very low footprint on carbon emission. Potentially, we can learn from them and try to create solutions which help them get much better sustainability. Then there is this issue of a trade-off. And I think most of us who are part of the participant group today, discoverability versus privacy, and then trust, convenience, and diversity. All of them compete with each other. It's not easy to get all of these constraints satisfied simultaneously. But again, if we change some of our assumptions, if we have some policy relaxations, we will notice that it's possible to trade off and get a good optimal mix out of them. Discoverability, should we be getting 20 phone calls selling us credit cards or offering us loans, versus me having my digital avatar which can publish that if so and so are my needs, if somebody can match it, or a bank publishing it out in a more discoverable API manner. Similarly, privacy, having multiple avatars. Some of the systems that we are designing today, there are handles, tokenization, and other mechanisms. Homomorphic encryption, again, an emerging opportunity to ensure that we get a good trade-off between privacy and discoverability or convenience. And then the final part, diversity, is very crucial to understand. Sustainable development goal is frequently targeting the least developed communities. How can we create solutions targeting them? And the final part I want to touch base on before we open up for a brief Q&A is we have to understand that the digital transformation that we are targeting is much more than just digitalization. We are talking of potentially, and DPI is a very good example, digital public infrastructure, the way the approach is going towards moving from a physical, I would say physical first infrastructure towards a digital plus physical infrastructure, and potentially in the next 50 years transitioning more towards the digital first infrastructure. We are reimagining the workflows, we are reimagining the roles, we are potentially open to changing the way we govern and observe. There are multiple organizations which may be willing to self-regulate. So again, the opportunity with this, digital learning, distributed ledgers, AI, ML, and potentially changing the way we are working today is what is digital transformation. Digitalization could be just a small subset of that. So with this, I will take a pause here. If there are questions, I hope Vishnu is also there. He can join me back. And we can take a few questions.
Thank you, sir. The floor is open for questions now. Requesting participant to post any questions they have in a Q&A tab. So, panelists, are we allowing hand raise request?
We can, but we don't see it actually. We don't see the. Okay. We have to see if we can see it.
I see Debashish Mitraji asking for floor. So yeah, it's fine, Chandrakanta. Please give the floor, please.
Okay.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, both of you. I sincerely say both the presentations were really impressive and very informative. Okay. So, my question to you, Abhishek, is on the vulnerability risk assessment that seems to be implied in some of the points you made when in the context of digital transformation that is happening in the country with maybe regulatory enablers or technology enablers. Is there is there any, I'll not say standard, but guiding document in international or national bodies which says that this is the way you should do the risk assessment of digitally non-native users, this is something which I am finding more and more prevalent among the senior citizens, whoever I've come across. So this is very, very important, I believe, and I am sure that you might have some things to share with us. Thanks.
No, so to the best of my knowledge, I don't know of an international or even national. We do have RBI circulars or some educational materials coming from banks and RBIs, uh, but it is still an evolving topic. As you correctly pointed out, it's not just the digital part, and with senior citizens, it's more on the phygital part. We keep telling them don't share OTP, and on lighter vein, our education to them is don't share OTP. But when the Flipkart delivery comes and he asks for OTP, we are breaking it, right? So educating them enough, I think it's a journey. It will not happen immediately. We are looking at 10 to 15 years, especially for people who are not digital first. Now there are opportunities, as I briefly alluded to, AIML and edge, distributed ledgers and similar platforms. Lot of SMS and phishing. For example, in India, there was a mandate to come from the bulk SMS and all. We have moved to a tighter regulation thanks to TRI. Similarly, bulk marketing calls, I think after DPDP Act should reduce, not that it will go to zero. So there will be residual risk. We will need to continuously train and retrain our customers group or citizen group. Uh, Best practices seem to be coming from NIST. We are following NIST most of the time, especially from the banking realm. But the diversity we have in India is probably much more than what NIST is handling. Vishnu, you want to add?
No, it's actually some of these things we have discussed previously also. I think you're right. Thank you.
And a very, very pertinent question. And if somebody wants to submit a paper on it, we will be more than happy to have. And do use both of us as mentors if you want to. Any paper, any idea, we would be happy without being a contributor. So we are not contributors.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I completely support that.
So if there are no
Thank you.
other
Thank you
questions,
for your comment.
thank you. Yes, Bindu ma'am, please. Chandrakanta, can you please help unmute Bindu ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chandrakanta, for unmuting me. And congratulations and thank you, Vishnu and Abhishek, for a great talk. I think it has demystified uh, how to write a good paper as well as the opportunities that Kaleidoscope conference offers. I just like got on to what Abhishek you was talking about. Let's go digital first, and maybe a transdisciplinary approach may be taken. For example, so we have these sakhis. You have ASHA workers, you have the banking correspondents that concept which is coming from the Department of Post. So several ministries have independent, I wouldn't say independent, I'm not sure about that, but parallel initiatives to reach out to the last person in the last remotest village. So do you think some kind of work on a platform or some integration of these various initiatives can be considered in the form of, let's say a digital sakhi or some such thing, both for ensuring that these parallel activities, especially financial inclusion, healthcare, and education, those can be addressed in an integrated manner, and also educating the users. For what you mentioned about the Flipkart, we are breaking that rule when we share the OTP. So some such do's and don'ts. So I do not know which department will take care of this, but is there some merit in this? I mean, I would like you to advise on
No,
how this transdisciplinary approach can be taken.
maybe it's a good idea, especially on the digital Sakhi realm, to put it as a panel discussion during WTSA. It could be India, it could be cross India. That would help us really get more participation.
Thank you.
That's the first thing that came to my mind, but we can take it offline. There was one more question. I think Chandrakanta messaged something. Okay. So there was a request on
There is a
access to the slide.
reference to yeah, there is a reference to standard. Thank you very much. Yeah, there is an ICT accessibility standards, the IS 17802. Thank you very much.
And the slides will be shared.
Yeah, can you share that ICT accessibility document link in the chat for everybody's reference? Thank you.
Yeah, Chandrakanta, please relate on the everyone chat, please.
Okay, sir. So it is
Okay,
available
then
from
if there
BIS
is no
for
other
free.
questions. Okay, thank you, Chandrakanta. The link, please put it on the everyone chat, not only for the panelists. I mean
Okay.
to say the number of it's IS 17802, but you can put it on the chat.
Okay. So there is a hand raise
Okay,
request from.
really, I don't see it, but yeah, you can please.
Please help
Yeah,
unmute him.
maybe we can take one. Yeah.
Okay, somehow I'm not able to see.
Okay. Then if there is no other questions, then we can close, Chandrakanta, please. If that's
Okay.
okay, Abhishek, please.
And thank you to everybody.
So
Just a small thing before
Shivam
we
Garg
close.
is asking for mic.
Oh yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, sir, can you share the PPT over email?
Yeah,
Hello,
you
sir.
can do one thing. You can write to Chandrakanta and she will share it. Yeah. If you can give your email ID to Chandrakanta, she will share it with you. No problem.
Sure, sure. Okay, okay.
So Vishnu, Abhishek, Chandrakanta, before we close, I just wanted to make a small announcement on behalf of the Secretariat. May I? Thank you. This particular webinar has been recorded, and as Chandrakanta mentioned, the recording will be made available on the event website shortly. The presentations by the speakers will also be uploaded to the event website shortly. Folks who are interested, who got inspired for submitting papers to the Kaleidoscope conference, may please reach out, send an email to Chandrakanta, the workshop resources contact persons, and they will in turn connect you with the mentors, Vishnu and Abhishek. Apart from that, you also now have an extended window for submitting the papers. Like Mr. Atul Sinha mentioned, the date has now been extended to 20th May. So we have close to 1 month now available with us. Please do reach out to the TSDSI persons, Chandrakanta and Ritika, for with your ideas. And like Vishnu said, no idea is small, no idea is silly. Don't self-judge. Simply send your ideas to the team. Thank you very much. A feedback form, the participants will receive a feedback form over email after some time. Uh, Thank you. Chandrakanta, back to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you to all speakers, participants for joining and interacting. If you are interested in contributing to the Kaleidoscope conference, please don't hesitate to mention in the feedback form. We will share the feedback form via email shortly. So kindly do provide your feedback on our workshop. Thank you.